In this video, we're going to be looking at the Super Ikonta 531. It's a truly pocketable medium format rangefinder. Hi everyone, thanks for stopping by my channel. This channel is all about sharing classic film cameras with you guys and hopefully creating a really detailed video catalog of some of these harder to come by cameras. Now, this video is going to be broken up into 3 sections. The first little bit, I want to share with you a bit of the history behind the Super Ikonta. The next little bit is going to go over the features of the camera. And then finally, we're going to take it out and take a few photos with it, just to give you an idea of what it's like to shoot with and the types of images you can expect to get with this camera. All right, so let's get started. Here is some history behind the Super Ikonta C. The Super Ikonta, when it came out originally in 1933, it looked like this. It was a 6x9 folding camera with a built-in rangefinder, and that was a big deal at the time because rangefinders were just beginning to be incorporated into cameras. So prior to this, you'd have a folding camera without a rangefinder, and the only way to focus would be either scale focusing. Some would have a ground glass back, which would help you focus. But the beginning of the 1930s saw the incorporation of a rangefinder built into the camera, often coupled with a lens, which means that as you focused, the rangefinder would also move in synchronicity, and it would show you what is being focused, like what the camera was being focused on. Now, this camera came out in 1933, and a year later, the Super Ikonta A came out, which was essentially a shrunken down version of this camera, shooting 6x4.5 negatives. So while this was a 6x9 camera that could also shoot 6x4.5 with a mask that you would insert into the camera, the Super Ikonta A was a dedicated little pocketable 6x4.5 medium format rangefinder. And that camera over time would change by adding features, and it would evolve into this camera, the Super Ikonta A531. Now the A at the end denotes that it is 6x4.5. The C denotes that it is 6x9, and there was also a B, which was a 6x6 camera, but the body style was completely different than these two cameras. So it was its own line of cameras in terms of design, whereas these two cameras were very close relatives. They were basically pretty much the same camera, only in a smaller form factor to be worked around the smaller negative size. And this camera was produced, just to add to that, the original Super Ikonta A was produced from 1934 to 1936, and the Super Ikonta A531 was produced from 1937 to 1953. And this one is a late post-war model. Pre-war models of this version would have painted trim. This one has chrome trim, so there's some minor revisions made throughout the life of this camera, but for practically 20 years, it remained pretty much unchanged, aside from some minor improvements. Alright, so here's an overview of the camera. As you can see, size-wise, it is very small. It's one of the smallest folding medium format rangefinders. Here is a Nikon F body for comparison. So it is approximately as thick as a Nikon F body, but it is quite a bit more narrow. So it will fit into a jacket pocket easily, and perhaps a shorts pocket if it's wide enough. To unfold the camera and open it up, you press down on this button here. That releases your Albata finder and the lens door mechanism. Next, what you want to do is open up your rangefinder prism. So just unfold the arm. And that's what the camera looks like ready to shoot. So let's go over the camera starting from the lens. Up front, you can see that the lens is a 75mm f3.5 Carl Zeiss Tessar lens. So it's a 4-element lens, and it is coated because this is a post-war model. Pre-war models were uncoated. To set your shutter speeds, it is this ring right here, and shutter speeds range from 1 second all the way up to 1/500th of a second, including bulb mode. This switch switches from your flash sync here you have your aperture ring. So this inner ring changes your aperture from f3.5 all the way up to f22, and it is a 10 blade aperture, so you will get nice round out of focus areas. Next, what you want to do is focus, and to focus you use this dial here. This rotates the focusing prism and also the outer lens element. So when you're shooting, you can use your index finger to focus, or you can use the knurled ring around the lens and use this hand to focus. I just want to add a little bit more detail on how the rangefinder works on the Super Ikontas. Unlike other rangefinder cameras where there's a physical link between the lens and the rangefinder, for example, if you look at the Bessa 2, when you focus, there's a lever that links the lens with the viewfinder, with the rangefinder, and there are elements inside the rangefinder which move to show you what is in focus. On the Super Ikontas, there are no moving parts inside the rangefinder, and there is no physical link between the lens and the rangefinder. Instead, there's an optical link because the rangefinder peers through this prism, and as you rotate the lens, the prism rotates, moving the image left and right. So it was a really innovative way of achieving a functioning rangefinder on a folding camera and really simplifying the mechanism, making it more or less cheaper to produce, but also there's less parts, less things can go wrong with a folding camera with things always opening and closing. If you ever bend the arm linking the lens to the rangefinder, it'll throw off your entire rangefinder. Whereas here, there's really nothing to bend unless you bend these arms which hold the door open and the lens in place. But it's just a more robust system, and it was really unique and really innovative, and was even copied by some cameras like the Russian line of folding medium format cameras. So I just wanted to cover that because it's a really unique feature of the Super Ikontas. Once you've achieved focus, what you want to do is cock the shutter, and this window indicates that the film has been advanced, so it is ready to shoot, and there is actually film inside this camera. So once you've composed your image, you press the shutter button. Up top, you have, as you've seen, your shutter button, your double exposure prevention. It's now showing white, which means that the film has not been advanced. So what you would do is you would rotate this wheel, and it also flips up to give you a better handle if you want a better grip. And as you rotate it, this window will change to red. Now, this isn't counting your frames or telling you that you've advanced correctly to the next frame. It is simply telling you that you've advanced your film, but you do have to pay attention to the numbering to make sure you advanced all the way to the next frame. Otherwise, you will have frame overlap or unevenly spaced images. Here is your rangefinder. So you would look through this peephole. Let's see if I can line it up. And as you rotate your ring, it'll be difficult to see, but here is your rangefinder window, and here is your viewfinder, your Alabata viewfinder. Now the nice thing about this viewfinder is the fact that it uses frame lines, and it is fairly large. So it's easy to compose your images because you see what's laying outside of those frame lines, and you can adjust your composition. A lot of the cameras of this era used very small tunnel-like viewfinders, which made composing very hard. So even though you had this nice medium format camera that can produce really great images, composing those photos was very hard, and it really took away from the pleasure of using the camera because it was just so hard to see what you were framing. On the back, you have your film counter window, your grip. To release the back door, you would slide this button up and it would open up. Now one more thing I can show you is it does have a little tiny kickstand, which lets you place it down on a table. Use a cable shutter release if you don't have a tripod. And to fold up the camera, all you have to do is fold down the prism, fold down the Alabata finder. You press down on these two levers, and that collapses your lens. And then you just close the door. And lastly, on the bottom, you have a quarter 20 mount to mount it on a tripod. And these two buttons, or little button things, actually are your spool releases. So you pull up on these to release your spools. And that is it. That's an overview of the Super Ikonta A531. I hope you guys enjoyed that little video overview of the Super Ikonta 531A. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment. The one thing that I did forget to mention in my overview video is the magnification of the rangefinder. So the rangefinder has a magnification of 1:1, meaning it's life size, which means you can keep both eyes open as you focus. And that's really handy because as you're framing or finding a spot to focus on, it just makes it that much easier because both eyes are open and you're seeing the entire scene versus just a tunnel and hunting for a good place to find focus. Yeah, so that's it. If you liked the video, please leave a like, please subscribe, please share the video if you know anybody that might want to know about this camera. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.